Hello, happy Wednesday. I'm doing something different here. I'm actually going to start this as a Facebook Live instead of Instagram Live, doing the clue review for last Thursday's mystery grape in blind tasting benchmark region, which was Pinot Noir Spatburgunder from Rheingau in Germany. The reason I'm doing this on Facebook Live is because I'm actually going to do a little different here with talking more about the deductive method with what are the clues in the glass that kind of point us towards grapes, what points us towards region, and I've got some text here, and I couldn't really figure out how to do this on Instagram with the text being flipped, but I could figure it out on Facebook Live, so yay, partial victory. But the reason why I wanted to do this is because we've been doing mystery grape for quite a bit here on Elevage Wine Coaching. I also did it on my old account, Spit Bucket, before Instagram nuked it for whatever reason. And I want to really talk through more that deductive method. So, that's why I've got my little breakdowns here, which I will show you. Because a lot of people approach blind tasting as just gut feeling. This is something. And that can get you so far. And a lot of times people will get hyper focused on the individual flavors that they pick out. It's like, oh, I'm getting cherry, so this should be this. I'm getting apple, it should be this. But really it's more the structure components and thinking about where you place these clues. What is this more pointing me to? Is this more pointing me towards the grape? Is it more pointing me towards the climate of the region? Is it more pointing me to what I will call kind of the culture and the mindset of the region? So let's get to that. I want to do this here with the Pinot Noir, our German Pinot Noir game, because it's one that, first off, I was super thrilled and excited that so many of you guys nailed the grape. With the first batch of clues, a lot of people were just like on it, yes, Pinot Noir. And then where the region was, that was a little bit more of a guesswork. The context clues that I did in the second batch helped folks narrow that down. And because it is tough. It is really tough to get the region. I like Pinot Noir because it does tell you some things, particularly about the climate it's from and that culture, that winemaking mindset to it. Pinot Noir is very transparent in that regard. And so if there was any grape that you were going to spend a lot of time getting examples of, and I encourage you doing this not blind, Pinot Noir, 3 different regions, 3 different climates, 3 different styles, you can find yourself picking up on patterns really easy with Pinot Noir versus, even Cabernet or other grapes. So let's first start with the clues that I gave you last Thursday. And then we'll get into our little breakdown here, blind tasting 101 kind of aspect. So the clues from Thursday, clue number 1, red cherries and fresh red cherries, fresh in the bowl with that. Clue number 2, raspberries, also fresh. Clue 3, I did white pepper for this one, and I also noted in the comments that other things I could have put here was graphite, flintstone, something savory is what I was trying to get folks towards. And white pepper, I knew that threw a few folks on the loop. The reason why I did that is because the most recent examples I've had of some Pinot Noirs from the Rheingau, that white pepper note jumped out for me. And white pepper, rotundum, not everybody has the same sensitivity. There's also a lot of folks that kind of think white pepper is basically just like black pepper, and that's where their mind jumps to. If you haven't spent some time getting up close and personal with some white peppercorns, do it. Get a grinder, get a mortar and pestle. White pepper is different. White pepper is kind of a little bit more earthier versus spicier. For me, like you hear people talk about like a barnyard, but it's not quite Brett. White pepper kind of reminds me of like I'm walking through like a garden center, a garden shop. There's a little bit of kind of freshness into the earthiness, freshness to the compost versus more what I think stink with barnyard. But white pepper can get a little stinky. A little funky. I had a chef friend who said that one of their like hazing rituals with, new chefs is to put white pepper on like the back of their chef's jacket. So they're like smelling this weirdness, trying to figure out where it is. So white pepper is different. And I like white pepper for a note for some of these savory, earthier, old world Pinots. I sometimes even get it too with some Burgundian ones because it is that earthiness that comes out. But there's a freshness. Pepper does have a freshness. And that also, for me, is a really good clue with cool climate. Rotundum, in general, you see that pop out more in cool climate. Syrah, cool climate Syrahs, you get more of the black pepper. White pepper, a little bit more of those cool climate, Gruners, and Pinot Noirs. So that's why I went with that. But the whole focus I wanted you to take with that clue is think savory, and we're going to come back to that. So again, graphite, flintstones, a little smokiness, savory. Clue number 4 was vanilla beans, fresh vanilla beans. So when I do vanilla beans versus putting like, McCormick vanilla extract, you're thinking good new barrels with that. And so I did want you to think a little bit of oak here. Clue 5, star anise, another oak spice. Some people can go like black licorice. That's for me a little bit of a sweeter note, and I'm still thinking savory. So that's why I'm more in that star anise note. Could also even get herbal and go like towards fennel in that aspect. And then number 6 clue was a toasted barrel. I really wanted to bring it back to the oak notes because one of the things that is, in German Pinot Noirs right now, and there are producers that are getting away from it, is a lot of producers do like to use new oak. In Germany, they're known for their wonderful Rieslings and white wines, but a lot of Germans like drinking dry reds. And good quality dry reds has a good place in that, especially in a region like Rheingau, where there's a lot of their GGs, their Gross Gewächs vineyards there. And so a producer that is making a good quality Spatburgunder often will use good new oak because it does give you the benefit of adding some more tannins and some more body to what is rarely a light grape on it. So you do want to think a little bit of oak sometimes. It's not just all New World regions with that California Pinots or Grand Cru Burgundies. Oak can show up in different places. So you just want to think a little bit. Keep that filed in the back of your mind when you pick up oak. Some of the different things it could hit. When we get to the structure clues, pale ruby, pronounced intensity, multiple clusters there. We got the fruit clusters, we got, kind of the earthy clusters, you got some oak clusters, secondary. Lots of things can go on with Pinot Noir. Dry, high acidity, medium to medium plus fine tannins. So thinking about the texture and the nature of the tannins is really, really helpful. I've praised Nick Jackson, Master of Wine, his book Beyond Flavor, numerous times because it really does encourage you to think differently about the acidity and think about the texture of the tannins. Fine tannins are going to be different than ripe and soft tannins from like a warmer climate, which is another thing we'll circle back to. Then medium to medium plus body. You saw that with the tannins. Medium to medium plus tannins, medium to medium plus body. That's where that new oak comes in. Just a little bit oomph. Pinot can be a very light and medium grape, but a little medium plus when you give it some oak to it. And then medium alcohol. So those were the clues I gave you, and then I gave you some context clues about the quality levels, very good to outstanding, and price points on it. But let's focus on just the clues in the glass, not the context clues. How do we approach it? The first thing you do want to approach is the clues in the glass that point you to the grape. That is always going to be your first task. Then once you get an idea of the grape, your whole world of wine gets smaller because you can think about what are the places that grow this grape. And then you can start piecing together details. So let's look at our grape clues. So our grape evidence, the pale color, thin skin. You never want to read too much into color. Color is just one clue out of the whole basket, but it's a clue that you start with. So pale color. Intensity, pronounced, multiple clusters. Different grape varieties have the potential for different levels of intensity. There are some grapes that are never going to get super, super intense. Like I really love, like Carmenere, I would say. Carmenere can get a lot of different clusters, but medium plus is often what it tops out with. Of course, a very high quality example of a lot of, wines can push it up more, but then there's the winemaking notes, or those secondary notes that are piling on. But naturally, when you just think about the primary notes of what the grape can do, there's only so much. Pinot Noir, it can hit multiple clusters, red fruits, blue fruits. It can even get darker fruits with the warm climate. And then you get the herbal notes, you get the earthy notes, you get some of that kind of mushroom notes aspect of it. High acidity, Pinot holds its acid well. It is an early ripening grape, so if you did hang it long on the vine, it's going to lose some of that, but it's not going to necessarily drop to low. It'll be maybe more in that medium plus acidity range. Medium to medium plus fine tannins. This is not like a Cabernet or a lot of the Bordeaux varieties that can get you up to high tannins. Pinot's more in that middle range, thin skins. There's only so many, phenolics and tannins in there. So you usually need to add tannins, like with oak, to kind of bump it up to that medium plus range. And again, focus on it being fine tannins. We'll come back to that one, especially when we think about the climate. Medium to medium plus body. Pinot doesn't, absorb huge alcohol levels like we think of a grape like Grenache. Grenache is going to be a pale color grape on that soaks up the sun and soaks up those sugars, which converts into alcohol. That will often be higher. And then overall, when you think about the grape, and this is kind of more that vague sense that you're getting as you're tasting this wine in the glass, you're thinking about the complexity of all those different clusters. You're thinking about the balance. You're thinking about the elegance of the body, of how it feels and carries itself in the mouth. So you're getting this kind of vague sense that it is a high quality grape. And so those are things that you kind of want to keep in the back of your mind, because what are some of the high quality grapes in the world on there? And Pinot Noir is certainly one of them. So there's our grape evidence. Now let's get to the region evidence, because you nailed the grape, or we got our world of Pinot Noir. Where do we find Pinot at? So now let's look at our other clues with that. You always want to start with climate. What is it telling you in the glass of where this fruit was grown? If you have a wine that is very overwhelmingly red fruit, you're thinking cooler climate, especially fresh red fruit. With red wines, it's a nice little spectrum that you can picture in your mind, going from red fruit to, red cherries, raspberries, strawberries, to blue fruits, like our blueberries. A lot of plums can be in that blue fruit category, to dark fruit, black cherries, black plums on there. And then also dried fruits. You want to make notes, but we have no dried fruits here in the glass. We don't really have dark fruits. We have all this bright red fruit, the raspberries, the cherries on there, little cranberries can pop out. High acidity, again, that is often a cool climate mark. As the grape hangs in the vine and it's getting all that warmth in the sun, it's metabolizing, it's burning up acidity. Tannins, these more fine, more structured tannins on it, is very different than you think of some of those ripe, soft tannins. I love a lot of wonderful California Pinot Noirs. They usually give themselves away with how soft their tannins are. Pinot's not a huge tannin grape, so you're going to not get that much. And when they're really soft, well, you're thinking of a warmer climate. Medium to medium plus body, medium alcohol. It's not soaking up all this warmth that it would in, again, California. It's a really good contrast to it. It is more in that medium kind of category of a cooler climate. And then also I have highlighted here a little bit the Rotundan, my little white pepper note. Rotundan, cooler climates. And you can really start getting a little bit dangerous in your blind tasting when you think about some of where those particular flavor notes are coming from. Some of the thiols, pyrazines, Rotundan. That's a little bit more higher level, and so I wouldn't stress so much about it early in your blind tasting. In our webinar series, our blind tasting plus theory series, when I break down the different grapes, Chenin, Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet Franc, Syrah, Cabernet Sauv, I talk about some of these, and again, that's a little bit more higher level, but just, kind of keep a little bit in the back of your mind. Mostly focus, though, on these things. What is the color of the fruit? And what are the acidity, the tannins, the body, and alcohol telling you about the climate? Are we in a cool climate? Are we in a more moderate climate? Are we in a warmer climate? And then let's get to our culture. This is here, people can kind of do the old world versus new world that is a little bit, generic, but there's some truth, where there's smoke, there's fire. In general, a lot of old world wines often focus more on savoriness. These are wines that were built and evolved over the century to go with food, to be more savory. When you think of in a lot of New World regions, a lot of wine is often drunk on its own. And so you want to enjoy that delicious juiciness of the fruit. Fruit doesn't necessarily mean sweet, but it does mean, juicy on that. And I find, particularly in the finish for a lot of the wines, it tells you a lot. What is that last kiss, that last influence, impression that it gave you? Did it end on a savory note? Something earthy, something spicy on it, something minerally with it, like the stones on it? Or did it end on a kiss of fruit, that ripe, juicy cherry on it? And then oak. Oak tells you a lot about that mindset of the winemaker on there. Producers that are going for a high quality wine often will use oak to give it a little bit more body, to give it a little bit more complexity on it. You know, there's a reason why oak is favored. It does great things with wine. But you got to think, though, is this a wine? Is this a grape? Is this a region that can afford that price point to make the oak worth it? Oak isn't cheap. And so we go to Germany, and in the Rheingau, where there is a history of high quality wines, they can command a little bit better of a price point that would merit doing new oak on it. So when you're going in your theory and you identified Pinot, and you got the sense this is a cool climate, so you're thinking Burgundy, that's usually the forefront, and there's certainly a lot of clues that would take you to Burgundy. And then you're thinking Germany potentially with that, especially with maybe a little bit of oak on that aspect of it. You know, the odds of you getting a Grand Cru Burgundy, not impossible in a blind tasting, but, you know, possibly could be it. Or you could be thinking it's a more like a moderate, premium priced, you know, German wine, or it could be a village level Burgundy. There's a lot of things involved. It is a little bit of a guessing game on that. And you're going to write an answer, and you will have your logic and your conclusion that can give you a lot of points, even if you don't nail exactly where this wine is from. But you want to show in your answer and your response doing these deductions. Here are my grape clues. Here are my region clues. This in the glass suggests this. And you won't always get the right conclusion. But you, again, showing that good logic will get you so much farther in your blind tasting than just getting hung up on, oh, wait, there's white pepper here, so this can't be this and whatnot. So hopefully that helped on that. We're going to get going here next tomorrow's game on a new blind tasting with that and see if you can take some of these little tips and put that in. So have a good one.